Okay, how many planners are in the room? Let me ask that question. Okay, there's a fair amount of them. Are you being asked to do more with less? That was a yes. Are your budgets going up? Nope. One time someone said yes, and I was like, congratulations. We have a 1%er in the room. And there's just flat out more interest in it. I mean, there's obviously more interest in AI for those of you that were here for that session versus this one, but thank you for prioritizing yourself. There's a lot more interest in it. So my question to you is, anyone sick of hearing about wellness? No. Okay, well that's good. But guess what? A lot of people are. Lululemon did a survey of 16,000 people on 5 continents, and this term was probably not on your bingo card for 2025, but probably most of the things we've been hearing aren't. Well-being burnout. Did anybody think they'd ever hear that term? I got a couple yeses. Okay. Well, 45% of 16,000 people in 5 continents are experiencing well-being burnout. That's like half. That's like 7,500 approximately people are experiencing. Now this is important because for those of you that aren't experiencing this, if you try to promote wellness at your meetings and events, you might get pushback. So this is the opportunity to learn something so that you can disarm pushback on the pushback. Yeah, exactly. What I really found enjoyable about this survey that they did was they broke down why. 61% felt this well-being burnout because of societal expectations. Look this way, blah, 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 blah. 53% because of conflicting information. I will say 2 words and you will know exactly what I mean by conflicting information. Seed oils, right? They're bad, they're good, they're fine, they're blah, 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 blah. Diet Coke is trying to kill you. It's just anyone with a phone can get online and claim whatever they want about whatever in the middle of a grocery store, and all of a sudden, I don't know, cheese is the devil. They will come for it. But it's always something, right? You're like, I didn't know that was gonna kill me, and I've been having it for 20 years, and I'm not dead. Wait a second. So it's making for really tough decision making. Now, this is the most egregious number to me because it's in contrary to what we do. And that's that 89% of people felt like they're going at it alone. Our job is to bring people together. So we have a direct opportunity to chip away at this number, and we're going to talk about how. But this kind of goes back to that original thing, the Olympian and the ohm. We got to quit doing what other people tell us to do. We got to figure out what works with us. Has anybody heard the term wellness journey? Yeah, everyone's heard that term. Everyone's heard that term. It's a journey for a reason, right? Because, like we said, it's not a thing that you do once and then it's done. But also because there's hundreds of modalities out there. And you might be into one for a while and then you move into something else. And it's not about this, you have to do this and this makes you well, or you do this, that makes you well. All these different modalities are out there because at different points in your life, they serve you versus when they don't. It's kind of like friends. You have those friends that are your standbys, that are with you all the time, your ride or dies, right? That's water, that's movement, that's the basics. But then you have the other things that come and go. You might start taking a Zumba class and you're like, I'm over it, I want to go to spin, or I want to go to this other dance class, or yoga, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Movement is your ride or die, and then it's different kinds. So when you prioritize what works for you and quit trying to follow someone else's definition of wellness, that's when you avoid the burnout. So we talked about this. In between that is attendee agency. we talk about wanting people to feel included at our events, right? So one of the things that I see happen all too often at events is the event tells the attendees what they think wellness is. What does that look like, you may ask? Thanks.
As a non-CMP, what is
Attendee, I'm going to explain it right now. Attendee agency is simply ensuring that your attendees have agency. So the idea is, instead of just saying, we're doing yoga at 6 a.m., take it or leave it, it's starting with registration and asking, what kind of wellness activities are you into? Because guess what? You can offer them all. Holy shit, I said I didn't have more budget. No, you don't have to have more budget. Because you're asking during registration, you know what people are actually going to show up to instead of pushing what your version of wellness is on them. They get to tell you what their wellness is and what wellness means to them so that you can understand. Then you know your room sizes, you know if you need AV, you have all your logistics information as well because you know how many people are supposed to come to it. So it also makes your life easier, right? Let's do yoga at 6 a.m. We'll tell everyone. Then nobody shows up. You have this big room because you didn't know how many people were going to show up. But avoid it all and include an other category. That other category gives people real agency to opt into what wellness means to them. There's this like mix between like a Zumba and a hip hop dance class that's wildly popular. She's shaking her head. She knows about it. It's wildly popular in the UK. And I had someone ask me, hey, do you know any instructors in the US? I was like, no, I've never even seen this before. And I was like, maybe you can be the first. But maybe you have a contingency of like 25 people, and these are all executives, and they're all super into this. Call them up overseas and fly the instructor in, especially if it's a VIP event. They're going to be thrilled because they can't find it in the US. That's going to leave such a mark on them. And this goes back to the goals, right? We're trying to get more from less. And we're trying to move that mark with our attendees. So let's dig into the 4 M's here. Mindfulness. Now, I'm going to go through this, and I know what everyone's thinking when it comes to mindfulness. But mindfulness is more than just meditation. We, as organizers, have to be mindful of what we're expecting. I like to use the term from our participants, not just attendees. We're building the agenda. So ask yourself these questions. Can an attendee learn if they're worried about other things, if they're stressed out, if they're preoccupied, if they're mentally in a different place? No, they don't give a crap about what you're presenting. They're busy on their laptop, answering emails, replying to Slacks, hearing the Teams notification go off, and hating their lives. So how are you helping them focus and have a calm mind? That's key to learning. If you're anxious and your heart rate's up and your sympathetic nervous system is in full fight or flight mode, you're in a bad place. You're not going to be able to focus. The other thing is the environment, the physical environment. One of the things we always think about is, what time are you asking them to get up? Are they getting enough sleep? I just interviewed a woman who is a medical doctor, a board-certified physician that specializes in sleep. And she informed me of 2 wild facts I had no idea about. One, your brain literally physically washes itself at night. It's called the glymphatic system, and your brain cells shrink, so all that cerebral solution can rinse around in your brain. Wild. I was like, what? The other thing is, when you sleep, you convert short-term memory to long-term memory. And you also free up space to learn new things. So that party that goes till 1 a.m., and then you start at 7 or 8 a.m. the next day, do that math. You're undermining your own ability to ensure people learn. Oh, I'll add one more terrifying fact. Apparently, alcohol paralyzes the muscles around your airway when you sleep. So you know how you know why that's why people snore more after drinking, because they're literally paralyzing the muscles around their airway, which then reduces quality of sleep, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, wild conversation. Okay, I'm gonna play this video for you. Please be dismissive of the dramatic music, because the message he's sharing is actually very powerful.
We've done studies with novice meditators, and we were curious to see what kind of biological changes would take place in 1 week if you went all in. We draw blood, and we look at about 2,882 metabolites. And at the end of 7 days, the novice meditators, almost 100% of them, show substantial biological changes in their blood that suggest that they're living in a different environment. Now, here's the weird part about it. They're actually making those changes inwardly. And I say to our research team, where are those chemicals coming from? Where are they coming from? The person's not taking any substance. It's coming from within us. And so the nervous system starts manufacturing a whole pharmacy of chemicals equal to the person's intention and emotional state.
This is from a Harvard study, actually. They've been doing this like 60-year study on people and how the mind influences the body. So, I'm not dismissing meditation when I talk about mindfulness. I'm just also making sure that we think about what mindfulness really is when it comes to our attendee journey. Okay, so that is M number 1, mindfulness. We good? Here's some ideas that you can take away with that. Offering meditation alongside or even after other activities. Create an agenda that gives people room to breathe and gives their brains an opportunity to process information. Add greenery to your meeting space. It also promotes oxygen if they're real. I don't know if they're real or not. They are. Love it. Okay, cool. And extend or multiply your breaks. Each of you are getting something different from this presentation. And if you have an opportunity to actually converse with each other, you're going to hear different things. That opportunity for exchanging information is invaluable, because sure, I'm up here, whatever. But when your peer tells you something they learned, it's always more powerful. Like, think about your partner or significant other is trying to teach you a new skill, and you're like, I'll figure it out. And you don't want to hear it from them, but then your best friend tells you the exact same thing, and you're like, that's a great idea. Same idea. Okay, so now let's talk about
I'm interested in all psychology, all neuroscience, and this is, I think, the most interesting finding of the last decade in all of science. And this is the insight that your muscles are basically an endocrine organ that secrete hormones into your bloodstream that affect every system of your body. Your muscles, they secrete chemicals and proteins when you exercise that are also really good for your brain health. And one of the first papers almost 10 years ago that was published explaining that when you contract your muscles, they literally secrete these proteins into your bloodstream that make you resilient to stress and can protect you from depression. The scientists called them hope molecules. This idea that literally your muscles are manufacturing like antidepressant molecules. And the only way to get them into your bloodstream, where they can then travel to your brain, is you have to contract your muscles. Like, that's it. It's like a pharmacy in your muscles. And anything you do that contracts them, walking, hiking, running, dancing, weightlifting, like swimming, anything, you are going to be dumping hope molecules into your bloodstream that when they get to your brain, they work as an antidepressant. And they also help people recover from trauma. Like that's like a miracle. Because of course it's wonderful when medications work for you, but for so many people, medications don't work or they don't do the full job in terms of helping with mental health. And the idea that your muscles could provide you with the equivalent of something like an antidepressant medication, I think it's phenomenal.
more dramatic music. You're welcome. This is really about movement, and that's the second M, is movement. Movement's going to mean different things to different people and different skill levels and whatnot. Not everyone wants to do a boot camp. Not everyone wants to do a walk. Honestly, one of the reasons I started in this agency and this mindset was because I got tired of the only options at events being running and yoga. Same damn thing all the time. And I'm like, why can't there be like I prefer something more intense. I want someone to scream at me and do push-ups until I want to throw up. So, but what's really interesting, and this is one of the things, and way back in the day, I worked for 24 Hour Fitness at their corporate headquarters, running their incentives and stuff like that. And they just met very differently. So movement is kind of how this started for me, because every morning we would get together and it was basically like a team practice where everyone would show up and they'd be hooting and hollering and yelling at each other and pushing each other. And it was all very productive, regardless of the verbiage that was used at the time. But they were all pushing each other to get better. And then what I found out is there's a book called Spark, written by a psychiatrist, so another board-certified medical doctor. And what they did is they did a study with this school in either Indiana or Illinois, and they made kids work out first thing in the morning with heart rate monitors on. And they didn't make them like run a mile in under a certain amount of time. What they did is they had these kids run and stay in a certain target heart rate zone. And what they saw is those kids' test scores skyrocketed. So this little quote here is from the book, but what happened is when they got into your 80+%, your zone 4+ heart rate zone, it does turn on your sympathetic nervous system. And what that does is it tells your body to start questioning your decisions. Am I going to die? Are we in danger? Someone's probably all done a workout at some point that you're thinking that, right? But what happens is those chemicals then linger in your brain. Specifically, your sympathetic nervous system turns on your hippocampus, and your hippocampus is the learning center of the brain. So what then happens is then when you go to sessions afterwards, theoretically, you're going to be smarter than anybody else in the room. And that's science. Like, they showed it. It's crazy. So when you have these offerings, make sure you offer it for those people that are the overachievers, because they want that, and it's going to pay off for them. So not only does it activate it, it actually can increase the size of your hippocampus, which is great. Don't worry, your skull won't get any bigger. It's just the inside that will get bigger. But by offering them that opportunity to move, they're going to learn more. Let alone, there is a whole component of group workouts. I think it's in here. Yes. Okay, good. This ties back to Miguel Neves has a term called sweat working. I don't know if you know who Miguel is. He's an editor at Skift. But these numbers mean a lot, especially when the term belonging is something we all hear a lot about right now, right? Everybody hearing belonging everywhere. It's the new sustainability. I'm not knocking it by any means, but these numbers, I'm going to read them to you because I think it's really important. 89% of people felt like they were going at their wellness alone, but 14% had an increase in wellness when they participated in team sports. 21% of people felt a sense of belonging when working out with other people. That's huge. We bring people together for a living. This is a way to directly impact them. 18% of people, when they spend time in nature or outdoors with others, or you can bring the outdoors indoors. And then lastly, 15% of people take group fitness classes, 15% of people felt a stronger sense of wellness when taking group fitness classes. I don't know, no, it's not in here. There's another study from Strava, for those of you who are familiar with Strava. It's a workout tracking app now. 66% of Gen Z made new friends in group fitness classes. 2/3. That's become their church. They go there, they make friends. That means 2/3 of Gen Z could be making friends at your event. That's powerful. The other thing that's really interesting, and I want to bring this up, is there was a 25% increase in resistance training amongst women, because people have figured out that you don't just look at a dumbbell and get jacked. Anka can attest to that. You have to do a lot of damn work and eat a lot of the right food to get bulky. It doesn't, well, you can eat the wrong food and get bulky, but that's a different kind of bulk that you don't want to do. But it's not just this thing that happens. So because of this diverse option, you have to offer different things for different people. There's also been a 52% increase in walking clubs. So not just run clubs, but also walking clubs. This all goes back to that attendee agency, right? So the other thing when it comes to movement, you know what you can do in a room like this? Don't tell Lisa. Well, we could have put standing tables at the back of the room. And then I would still always told everyone to come to the front of the room. But anyways, but people like to stand. And they want to move. Their backs hurt or whatever it is. Put high boys at the back of the room. It's totally free. Floor-length linens. No big deal. And then those people who stand feel seen. Once again, chipping away at that feeling like they're going at the stuff they're doing alone. One example in here, I went to a smart meeting event in Louisville, and the CVB, do we have any CVBs or DMOs in here? I'll explain it. Convention and Visitors Bureau Destination Marketing Organization. It's the company like Visit Seattle, that kind of thing. They did a scavenger hunt downtown that they did after lunch. Because we all know what happens after lunch, right? So people got outside, they spent time with others, outdoors, and in nature. I mean, it was Louisville, so there wasn't a lot of nature because we were downtown. But still, outdoors. And we got to see the city. How many times do you go to a meeting or an event and you don't see anything, right? You're just meeting to meeting, and you see your airport and the hotel and whatnot. Great idea. Cost little to nothing, and the city was stoked to put it on. And the planner didn't have to do anything. The CVB did all the work. Step challenges also are a great thing. Everybody been to IMEX for the most part? I'm guessing you haven't been to IMEX. Have you been to IMEX? By the way, I have signed copies of Tahira's book here. I promise they're all signed. We're going to give away a couple at the end here. So she signed them. You are going to get one. I'm going to just toss it on the table because I want you to be up to speed. Okay, IMEX, they do the Hecka Health Walk Challenge. Guess what? Hecka Health, they do all kinds of other measurements besides steps. They do water consumption, they do sleep, they do workouts, they do all kinds of stuff. I just found that out a couple days ago, so you don't have to limit it to step challenges, even though that's a great thing. So, first M, mindfulness. Second M, movement. Let's jump into the third one. Because food at events is super simple to understand. Actually, I'm just going to play this video, and then we're going to skip to the fourth one.
5 small meals per day and run. Also, only eat breakfast and dinner and walk. Also, eat lots of protein and lift, and actually don't do any cardio, it's bad for your joints. Also, don't eat too much protein and make sure you're sleeping a lot, but don't be sedentary. But don't be too active, it's bad for your blood pressure. Make sure you replace all your lost salt, but never eat too much sodium. It's easy, just eat vegetables. But don't eat potatoes or corn. Fruit is obviously good for you, and also it's all sugar and it's bad for you. Sugar, I forgot to mention, is a vital source of quick burning carbohydrates that your brain needs to survive, and you should avoid it at all costs. Protein is hurting your kidneys. Make sure you eat a lot of it. Drink water. Never starve yourself. Unless you're calling it intermittent fasting, and then it's okay to starve yourself. Don't overhydrate. Being vegan is obviously the healthiest lifestyle, and also no, it's not. Fish is obviously super good for you, and it's full of mercury and killing you. Simple, right?
Anybody feel that way when it comes to like food? Okay, so the third M is actually meals, so that we keep it consistent with the M's. Mindfulness, movement, meals. Here's a fun fact. The peer-reviewed studies have not come out yet, but I had a software engineer who I used to work with who told me, when I have a high-protein breakfast, I don't have to take my ADD meds. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? So, of course, I went and Googled it, and I couldn't find anything on like NIH or anything like that, but I found a lot of blogs and a lot of questionable stuff on Reddit. But I found some good sources, and next month I'm actually in like 2 weeks, I'm gonna have a conversation with a dietitian about this specific point to find out the validity of it. But when we were talking about it, I said, hey, any truth to this whole eat protein in the morning, stave off the ADD challenges? And she said, well, it can definitely prolong the efficacy of ADD meds or ADHD meds because the protein in your bloodstream and in your stomach will slow the uptake of those meds, so it will actually make them last longer. I told that story at a North Star event, and a woman publicly commented on my LinkedIn, thank you so much for talking about this. I started feeding my 13-year-old son grilled chicken for breakfast. I was like, that's a choice. There's a lot of other protein options. And his grades went up. And he has really bad ADD. That was wild. But it's all over the mom blogs about giving the kids protein for breakfast. What we feed people matters. If you go out and they have lunch and you have a gluten allergy or a tree nut allergy or whatever, and you can't find what you want to eat on the line, how does that make you feel? Shitty, okay. Unseen. It's terrible. You can fix this and not only make those people feel seen. What, did it say something funny? Yes! That's amazing. Okay, that's a good test of the captioning software. But not only can you help people feel seen, but you can actually arm them so their brains function better so they learn more. There's 9 brain foods you can use. There's gonna be a slide. And at the end, by the way, there's a QR code that you can scan and get all the slides. So it's kind of like one of those things that, like, if food is fuel for your body, why would you skip this stuff? Like, hey everyone, we had workouts and we got movement in the room and blah, 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 and here's your Twinkies for breakfast, or your continental breakfast, where there's no protein to fuel your brain at all. We're gonna spike your blood sugar so that you crash in the middle of the next session and you don't remember anything. Now, I'm not saying you need to get rid of that stuff. It's about yes and. It's that attendee agency. Maybe I wanna make sure I fill my plate with protein and green salad instead of pasta salad so I can have the cookie at the end of the line. Let those people make those choices. At 24, it was bacon, egg whites, donuts, whatnot, because some people were on a cheat day while they were there. But you had to accommodate all those things. So it's not about limiting yourself back, it's about yes and. The other thing is, when you order off a menu, you don't have to order 150 servings if you have 150 people of one menu. You can do 75 and 75 of a different menu. You can also ask them, how many hoteliers are in here? Okay, earmuffs. You can also move your protein all the way to the front of the line. That doesn't cost anything. The hotel may not be a fan of it because they're definitely going to go through it at that point. But by prioritizing that, you're arming yourself to ensure your attendees can pay attention. Obviously, you can also take advantage of your destination, showcase local foods, things of that nature. I feel like that one, we all kind of know that. The last thing, though, is why does networking have to equal alcohol? Okay, all right, you can clap louder. You want to stand up? You can testify. This is another yes and situation. I was talking with a friend of mine. She was talking about her IMEX booth at last year. I said IMEX, right? Yeah, okay, not the theater. And she said, I said, you gotta have mocktails or zero proof or something. And she said, if I get rid of booze in the booth, the sales reps are gonna kill me. And I said, no, don't get rid of it. Add non-alcoholic options. Also, please don't have strawberry lemonade with or without vodka, because that's strawberry lemonade. That's not an actual mocktail or a soft cocktail or whatever you want to call it. Give those, we had a conversation with 4 people who didn't drink. A couple of them were in recovery. A couple people just didn't want to drink. And the term they used is othered. They constantly felt othered, which means not seen. So if you are gonna offer non-alcoholic beverages, here's the tip. You know that rail at the bar where you walk up and you see all the things? Put them up there. Let people know. If you have NA beers, this happened to me at a side event. I went to the bar, I said, hey, do you have any NA beers? I had lost some weight, so I was like really on my plan. And he goes, yeah, we have 2. And I'm like, cool, which ones are they? And he goes, no, we have 2, like 2 cans. And I was like, oh, I guess I get to have 2, and that's it if nobody else has one. So if you have NA beers, put them up on the rail. If you have seltzers, whatever you have, if you have a mocktail, have them make it, put it on the rail. Let people know that you're offering them so that they feel seen, because inherently they aren't going to think anything is there for them. And that, once again, costs nothing. By the way, for those of you that are like, why are mocktails so friggin' expensive? I have an answer for you. Because you actually taste what's in them. So they have to use better ingredients. That is not something I would have ever thought about, but they're like, there's no alcohol to mask the taste. So you have to use a higher quality ingredient because you're actually going to taste it. So, okay. This is from that event I was just talking about, and I love this 50-second explanation. And you're welcome to clap and applaud and flip a table if you like what he says.
The first time I met with him, and he goes, Carl, just because you're not drinking alcohol doesn't mean you deserve a lesser experience. And I literally was like, hold on.
I want to make sure we got that on video.
Just
say that one more time.
Yeah, just because you're not drinking alcohol doesn't mean you deserve a lesser experience. So I would write that down. I mean, think about all the people that you're going to, host events or put things together for. Yeah. And that same level of elevated premium offering, I felt like I was a part of it. And having something in my hand, to everybody's point, is a big component. And when you elevate that, I felt like I was back in this kind of amazing high-end cocktail bar. And I realized that obviously I'm not drinking, but it was such an amazing experience. And I think the experience of it, you can still have a really good time with an elevated drink, and you forget that you weren't even drinking.
He might look familiar. He's on a show called Summer House on Bravo. We did an event with him, and he is very open about his recovery. But non-alcoholic things are an inclusionary thing. It's not just a thing you're pushing. So, okay, we can skip this. We already talked about it. Here are the brain foods for those of you that are interested. It gives you a quick rundown of them. The other thing is you can label this. Like, put it out at your food and do a brain boost bar and label all these things and add the benefits. I just commented on a thread with a bunch of people that were like, oh, we're going to do an Energizer bar or an energy bar at an event, and we're going to put a bunch of candy on it. And I was like, what, really? Like, people are tired of that. Do something different. I said, list a bunch of stuff like this and do a trail mix, but actually list the benefits of the food so that people build their own trail mix accordingly. Okay, oh, I almost gave it away. We are on to our last M. So, mindfulness. You get a book? Second? Movement. Wait, did you say the same thing? You don't get another book. Okay, movement. Third one? Okay. I heard up here, this is a very active table. Whoa, that almost went bad. Okay, let's jump into our last one, which is meaning. Help your attendees connect to something bigger than themselves. Purpose. Has anybody ever heard of a helper's high? Have you ever heard that term? Okay, some of you have, some of you haven't. You basically get a shot of oxytocin when you help people. Like, have you ever done a good deed and you're like, I feel really good about myself. And then you want to tell people, but then you're like, I don't want to be the person who's like telling people that I did something good for someone, because then it looks like I did something good for someone so I could tell people about it. But that feeling is perfectly natural. Going back to belonging, there are so many studies around loneliness and isolation that leads to premature death and whatnot, because people aren't connected to anything. So this isn't necessarily about just doing charitable work. This is just helping people connect to something bigger than themselves, which can even be their coworkers. At one of our sales kickoffs, we did OKRs. That's a objective and key result. It's the way Google measures all their stuff, and the tech world is fascinated with it. But we helped teams work together because then they felt like they were a part of something, that they weren't just a single individual in this journey of the company. And then that was one day, and then the other day we did a hand building, a prosthetic hand building with Odyssey teams. If you haven't heard of them, it's kind of like the bike build, but it feels way more impactful because they're like you get to decorate the bags, and then what was really powerful, and here's the tweak to both of those things, is I told Odyssey teams, when you deliver these bags, please film it and send it to us so that we can close the loop. Because people got very emotional during it, and then we played the videos at all hands. And these people, like, everyone was beside it, they're like, we did that. You saw the joy in someone's face that now had something that they could never afford, and gave them agency once again because they had a prosthetic hand. People were like, this is the most emotional I've ever been at work ever. Same thing with the bike building. If you do bike building, see if you can do it like on the very first day, and then see if you can actually give those bikes to the kids on the last day, so that everybody who worked on those bikes can see the joy in those kids' eyes. That is really just making an ask, as opposed to it costing a whole heck of a lot more. Also, the best part for an executive on any of this stuff, it's all tax deductible. 501c3s, it's write-offs. So it might seem expensive, and I'd make sure that you don't, like, it should be in your budget so that you're tracking what it costs, of course, but the overall event agenda, or the overall event budget, it'll come out of a different section of the company's P&L because it's all write-off, because it's going to a 501c3, which is a great thing for everyone. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up and then we'll do a quick Q&A if anybody has questions. Wellness is about inclusion, not exclusion. Yes, and. People are craving being together, so let's make it enjoyable. They want to connect with other human beings. We want them to feel like they belong. The truth of the matter is, people who are well-connected, well-fed, well-moved, and well-rested, they fill out better survey scores. And to give you the exact numbers, our sales kickoff went from an 8.2 to a 9.4 on our average net promoter score. So our average net promoter score was a 9.4. What was the sample size? I'm so glad you asked. 80% of 400 people took that survey. That had nothing to do with wellness. It's because we hid the pictures at the end of the survey. You're welcome to take that as well. But when our executives saw those numbers, and it was for an internal meeting, they were so happy. They're like, Dave, everything was worth it. It was all worth it. Especially when I told the CEO when he wanted to do a 90-minute presentation. How much of that do you not want people to remember? Yeah, that went over like a bag of rocks. But we shrunk them down to like 20-minute sections. And he's like, okay, you win. You were right. So, 4 M's: mindfulness, movement, meaning, meals. The end. My co-founder lives in Hawaii, so she'll be happy I put that up there. We have time for a question? 1 or 2?
3 minutes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
First question. Gets a book. You're going to have 2 books?
I don't need 2 books.
Your number.
One moment, please.
Oh, thank you. I was curious if you have any information about how the fitness and wellness industry's relative lack of inclusion affects events and how event planners can incorporate wellness and fitness into their events.
Can you elaborate a little more on what you mean? I just want to understand it fully.
I'm a former group fitness instructor, so
Okay.
I worked in that industry for a long time.
What'd you
And,
teach?
Step, a lot of step.
Okay.
But over those years, it feels like, and still today, it feels like the fitness industry does not have a handle on how to include most people, if not everyone. And so it
Gotcha.
feels like it's hard to incorporate
Yes,
that
okay.
in events.
I will say that's where us at Olympian Meeting, it's kind of a sweet spot for us, is there is one sport that while they have done some reckless, terrible things, CrossFit, they are really good about accessibility when it comes to mobility and limited range of motion and adaptive athletes and things of that nature. And their coaching or their gyms are built around that, and they're trained. That's like the one, they teach people how to tell people how to do an Olympic movement in a weekend and certify them. But yet, in that same weekend, they're talking about you got to ask people what kind of injuries they have, what kind of limitations they might have. If you notice they're in a wheelchair, something of that nature. So our big thing is ensuring that we have properly trained and certified instructors that are capable of accommodating anyone at every level. Next question.
But this is great, by the way. I've taken away a lot.
And this one's for you back there, by the way.
Some of the things that kind of come up when I'm talking to CDOs, DDs, and EDs are not getting like a good percentage back on survey results. So I'm just curious if you've seen, have seen cool ways of incorporating these strategies into surveys, getting surveys during events, anything along those lines?
Not really, but I think one of the things is when we launch registration, we ask what people want to do, right? And so we will list the dates and times in the survey and say, please select your top. One of the things that you should make sure you include, depending on the facility and where we did a sales kickoff one time, large European contingency. We were in let's just say a Nevada city not known for wellness. But the gym didn't open until 8 o'clock. And we knew the Europeans were going to be up at like 4 or 5 due to jet lag. Even the West or the East Coasters might be. So we talked to the hotel about having the gym open early, and it cost us like $250. And we gave go to the gym and do my own thing as an option on that checklist. So,
I'm talking about the closing survey.
oh, the closing survey. Hide the pictures at the end. Don't let anybody see a picture until they fill out the survey.
Alicia said we have time for one more. So
okay.
I'm going to hop on, and you don't have to answer this in long form. Hot tip is what I'm looking for, if you have any hot tips. It sounds like mostly what you're talking about is incorporating these strategies into longer form meetings, conferences. I work primarily in the area of galas, right? So shorter format. I do think there are probably applications for this, and I just wonder if you've seen like any hot takes on how to do this in a shorter time span.
Shortest possible answer, food. Second shortest possible answer, non-alcoholic beverages. Like, let those people feel seen. Let them know that there is something there for them so they feel like they are a part of the overall experience, as Carl said like 8 times in 45 seconds. Ensuring that you give people the option to eat something healthy that's delicious, and ensuring that if people don't want to drink, another like little silly thing, non-alcoholic should still be served and presented beautifully in stemware, not, oh, you got the non-alcoholic drink, here's your plastic cup. Because that degrades the whole experience. So you want that same thing so that someone goes, oh, what are you having? Not, oh, you don't drink? Because that's the last thing anybody wants to hear. So, okay. Awesome. Thank you.